Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. Roll call, please.
Kolpak? Here. Pepcorn?
Here.
Preston?
Here.
Strand?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and on Tuesday, Fargo Cast Public Health, the Fargo Police Department, and the 463 Foundation will host a news conference to premiere a suicide prevention public service announcement video entitled The Faces of Suicide. The video features family members and friends of loved ones who have lost their lives to suicide. The Awareness Month is dedicated to breaking down the stigma surrounding mental health by providing education and highlighting community resources available for those who may be struggling with a mental health issue. Library. A Star Wars celebration event for teens will take place Thursday, May 4th at 6:30 p.m. at the main library. May the 4th be with you. Those attending will make a lightsaber craft, play Star Wars trivia, and engage in other themed activities. A free concert featuring the Crop Dusters will take place Saturday, May 6th at 2 p.m. in the main library. And the 4th annual Natural Focus Photographic Project continues through May 31st. This region-wide photography project is up-and-coming recreational photographers aged 13 and older. Other. May 7th through May 13th is the Public Service Recognition Week. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the City Commission and the City Administration to thank the employees of the City of Fargo for the work they do to support our community. There are approximately 1,600 dedicated employees who take a great deal of pride in the work they do for the citizens of Fargo. We as a Commission and Administration are very proud of the accomplishments of Team Fargo. I also want to thank any other public service who live and work in our community. We know you appreciate your service as well. Just in time cleanup week, Ben, so we'll really test everybody. Eating healthy and having fresh local food is important for maintaining a proper diet and enhancing the food system. However, not everybody has access to it. The Cass County Food Partners are working hard to provide opportunities for people to have access to local produce on a tight budget. Here's how they're making an impact.
Eating healthy or having good foods is really essential to our fundamental well-being, and being able to have access to fresh produce is one of the ways to really support a healthy lifestyle. Local foods are fresh, they're picked at their peak ripeness, they tend to taste better, they're in season, they're of high quality. Also, eating locally helps to support our economy here in our region.
I would tend to agree that fresh produce can be hard on a tight budget. However, we have some really cool opportunities in Fargo Moorhead with several community gardens that are in North Moorhead and South Moorhead, Dilworth, and then the Growing Together Gardens in Fargo, where people can actually participate in gardening once a week and then sharing in the produce. I would add to that by saying people who qualify based on income for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, they can take those funds and spend them at a grocery store or at a farmer's market that accepts SNAP EBT and get access to fresh local produce at the farmer's market.
There's one at West Acres, some in West Fargo. There is a farmer's market in Dilworth. We also have the Moorhead Farmers Market. A very popular one is the Red River Market in downtown Fargo.
So the SNAP EBT acceptance at a farmer's market is really quite unique. I think of a triple win. For sure, SNAP participants who come to the market and use their SNAP EBT, they win because they get access to this fresh local produce that they may not otherwise have access to. Secondly, all of the farmers and vendors, they win because it's more dollars that are being spent at their booths at the market. So our local food systems is, lifted because of this. And then the third win is our community. When people have access to fresh, healthy foods, the community benefits because people are healthier.
Eating good food, healthful food is essential for everyone. Public health really tends to lean on 3 pillars, and that's protect, promote, and prevent. And as a way to support our local food systems, that is an instrumental way to really put that mission into practice and to ensure that everybody in our community has access to affordable, high quality, those sorts of foods that are really, of need and are important for everyone in our community.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve the order of the agenda, withdrawing item 7B on the consent agenda and moving item 9 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda?
So moved.
Or second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 17, 2023 regular meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 42, excluding item 7B, which has been withdrawn, and item 9, which has been moved to the regular agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Preston? Aye. Colpack? Aye. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Public comment, resident comments. There are no speakers tonight, so we will go public input. We're a little early, so we can go to Steve Dirkson's Chief Fire Department's presentation of the 2022 Fire Department Annual Report.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It's good to be here tonight to go give you a recap of what happened in 2022 as far as the fire department was concerned. Again, we saw a record number of responses for 2022 as our community continues to grow. People, again, you continue to call for services. Forgot to advance the slide. So you can see we're just shy of 15,000 responses in a year. It goes up quite a bit for the last 5 years. And since I arrived here in town, and I don't think I had anything to do with it, but we're up almost 10,000 responses from 2011. So we continue to grow and calls for service. People are calling us for all kinds of reasons, and we'll get into a few of those here as we go forward. Fires is in our name, so I thought we'd start with just talking to you about the fires that we've had, the dollar loss, that the reason why we've had fires, what the intents or the causes have been. Sometimes most of them are unintentional. That's a good thing that we don't have a lot of intentional fires set, so unintentional, but those make it often more difficult to determine as well, because it's hard to figure out that cause. We can get it to an area, but sometimes our folks that's about all we can do is get down to that. We can't tell that it was a toaster or a coffee maker, something like that. So, our main causes of fire continue to be, we'll get that one in a little bit. We have our city divided into planning zones, and the planning zones, we have 10 of those, and we've done this since we became an accredited fire department. That was part of our accreditation process, is to divide the city into spots that look at the unique features of the geographical area that we look at. And we've tied all these zones to where we have fire stations. Now you're gonna see that we have Zone 8, Zone 9, and Zone 10, and we don't have 3 more fire stations. We're working on the 8th one, and that'll be the next agenda item. But we do that for planning purposes to know what type of responses are there. Planning Zone 9 is the Deer Creek area. As we continue to build that area out and as the development works down there, you can see we've had a rise in service calls there from 56 4 years ago to 104. So people are continuing to call for services. Zone 10 is up north of County 20 in that industrialized area. And since Amazon has moved in, we've seen a number of calls for service up there. Fortunately, most of them are not fire calls, but they are more related to medical emergencies with workers there. So this kind of lays out, this is a map of how we have the city broken out into the planning zones. And as I said earlier, each zone is tied to a fire station location. And what we're looking for and gives us ideas in the future. So, within, 5 or 6 years, we probably better be looking for a fire station somewhere down in this area in this planning zone 9 as we continue to develop out there to make sure that we can meet the response times that we set as goals that you as the commission have actually given to us a number of years ago of where you'd like to see us go. So the number of responses by incident type that we respond on, the National Fire Incident Reporting System has 9 different categories that they have us classify all of our responses into, from fires, which is the main one for the reporting, but then we talk about overpressure to EMS, where you can see EMS. We had Sanford Ambulance here a month or so ago giving their report of their activities within the city and how they respond and take care of our citizens. We have a tiered system, and generally every EMS call is going to get a fire response, a police response, and an ambulance response from Sanford Ambulance. And we do that because our fire stations are situated within our city to quickly respond to where we want to go. Our goal is to get from the time our truck leaves the station to the place that's calling for us. Our goal is to be there 4 minutes from that call. We want to be there from the time the call is received at dispatch to when we show up at somebody's side in 6 minutes and 20 seconds for fires and 6 minutes for EMS calls. So you can see that that's about 65 to 68% of our responses are tied to medical. We have hazardous conditions that can be from leaking gas lines to downed wires, whatever it might be. Service calls, it could be flooding in the basement, that type of stuff. Good intent. Somebody sees something wrong and they just don't know who to call, so they send the fire department because we hire people that are really good at fixing problems. The folks that we have, they can identify and triage and go through and fix those things. The false alarms, that's exactly what it is. An alarm system in a building went off for whatever reason and notified their alarm company. They called us, we go check it out, there really wasn't anything there. We look at severe weather, and then special incident type is just something that we can't find another category for it to go into. Sometimes it's a call where somebody might just have called us, and then when we get there, there's nobody there. So that's where that can end up to be. Our most common fires, the 5 most common that we've seen for the last number of years, if I would build this out for the last 20 years, it's going to be these 5. Building fires are obviously the most common. And then vehicle fires took a jump last year. We're not exactly sure what that is, but one of the challenges we're starting to realize with vehicle fires and things that we're going to have to look for is the electric vehicles. When those batteries start to burn, there's no easy way to put them out. There are places that are looking at having big roll-off dumpsters full of a gel product that you come and actually pick the vehicle up and put it in there and suppress the oxygen, or just trying to water doesn't do a great job in putting it out. So the industry's looking for that. There's different products. Right now we're using sand and sometimes water sometimes we don't know that it's an electric vehicle right away or if it's a battery. That's just ways that we can try to put that out. But that's going to be a challenge for us going forward in the future as we see more electric vehicles around, starting to look at how do we handle those.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question, or do you want us to wait till the end?
You can ask anytime you want.
So if somebody calls in with a 911 call for a car fire, do you ask if it's an electric vehicle now? Do you know?
I don't know if that's a question that dispatch has asked for, but I will find that out for you because that's be a really good question for us to have asked.
I have lots of questions about this because actually water accelerates the burn.
Yep.
Because it's a Class D fire, correct?
Yep.
And so lithium is the metal that's in there. And so lithium, and actually what happens is it doesn't go out.
No.
And so this is a big deal. Yep. And I think it's very scary. The other thing is the extreme heat, 2,000 degrees, correct?
Right. They can get very hot. And cars have a lot of metals in them. There's some magnesium and potassium built into the cars and some things. So it really makes quite a spectacular fire when you hit it with water, but it's not something that's going to be effective in putting it out.
But right now, what do we, so a lot of departments, their policy is to let the car burn. And
Let
so-
it burn, or you look for sand or dry chemicals and things like that that can.
So, Mr. Chair, this is a big deal, especially in our parking ramps. To me, this is a safety issue, and so I think we need to have the chief get back to us on what he recommends, because if it was me and I had an EV car, I wouldn't put it in my garage. And I don't want to put you on the spot, chief, because, but right now, if you see the fires, what happens, it's not like a regular car fire. It's extremely dangerous, and they can't put it out. So let's say hypothetically, we put one of these in our parking ramp. That's not a good situation. So I think we need to think long and hard about that. And what I would recommend is, until we get something resolved, we do not allow EV parking in our ramps. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we'll keep looking for those solutions as we go forward here, because we've been watching it and researching it, and our battalion chiefs keep coming with ideas, and they say this is an option, this is not an option. We're looking for it. It's just not out there. And New York City has seen a lot of them, because they have not just car fires, but it's the lithium batteries in the little motor pads that you see go around the city that you can grab, and having issues like that as well. So we are on top of that. We're paying attention to what's going on. They just haven't found a really good solution for this yet. Dumpster fires, they were down this last year, even though we had a gentleman that was running around downtown one night. I think we had 5 or 6 dumpster fires that he lit. But cooking fires, again, that's kind of a pretty common a way that we start with building fires as well. So our top 3 origins for structure fires, when we look at that 128 that we have, the kitchen area is always the highest area. It's unattended cookings. Someone falls asleep, they go outside to get something, come back, and something's burning on top of the stove, maybe gets to the cabinets, those kind of things. The next thing is the exterior of the home, whether it's a deck or a balcony on an apartment. I just did a radio show this morning, and we talked about discarding cigarettes properly. When we put them in potted plants that sit out on a balcony all winter, peat burns. It's not dirt, and so it will burn when it gets dried out. Days like the last few days with the wind, you may have stuck something in there all winter long, and it may just not all winter, it didn't smolder, but if they did one last night, it could smolder. The wind could start coming up and fan that flame, and the next thing you know, we have fires on the balcony. And I think one of the next slides here, you're going to see we had some higher fire loss in the last 3 years here. A lot of that is attributed to improperly discarded smoking materials. So you can see last year, or in 2000, we really saw a real high bump as COVID kicked in, and we attribute that to people being in the house more, being home more, those kind of things. In 2020, we had 2 apartment buildings that started from smoking materials on the deck, got into the attic, and we lost 2 apartment buildings. So that's why you see that high loss there. 2021, the big loss was Elam Nursing Care Center early in the year. And then last year we had, and that was also when we had the woodchuck also burned in 2021. And then last year we had another apartment building that was on just off of 42nd Street. Had significant loss there as well. So we've seen that increase. But the good thing is we also have saved a significant amount of property. So when you look at the dollar value of the property that was involved in fire, and you look at that loss in 2020, over $330 million worth of property, and our loss was $5 million. So that's a real low percentage. It's like 2%. So the numbers are they correlate pretty well. Even with losing Elam in 2021, the total property saved is $118 million. So our folks do a good job once they get there and stopping it. Just sometimes we get there, and the 2 that we had in 2020, they were like late at night, 2, 3 in the morning. So when we don't get a lot of notice, people aren't up and around noticing those things, and things can get away from us. Last year was not as good of a year for us with civilians. We had 4 civilian fire deaths last year. We had 1 fire early in January where we lost an elderly couple, a man and a woman, to a house in their house fire there, and then we had another one in the apartment, and I can't remember where the 4th was. The other thing is, our civilian injuries, stay pretty steady at that 6, 7, 8. For a community our size, that's really a good number. When you look at the national statistics, those numbers are much higher. And so our folks are doing a good job. And even our firefighter injuries, last year we had 9, and a couple of years ago in 2020 we had 11. Those are really low numbers when you look at the number of responses our folks make and the conditions that they're in, and to have that few of injuries as a result of being on a fire scene. Those are really low and some of the best that we would have within our region, within the country. Response time, that's the thing. That's why we have fire stations where they're at, is to get there quickly. Our goal for EMS incidents is to be there in 6 minutes from the time the call comes into dispatch. You can see we're at 8 minutes and 24 seconds. We have room for improvement there, but a lot of that gets tied into one of the next slides here, is what it takes to process that call when somebody calls 911. The national standard for that, through the National Emergency Number Association and through the National Fire Protection Agency, is to get that call answered and get dispatched within a minute. Well, there's a lot of things that come into there. People are excited, number one, when they call 911. People don't call 911 every day. Trying to figure out where they're at. That's when you call 911, it's 911, what's the address of your emergency? Some people have to try to figure that out. Cell phones, we would like that to be more accurate and give us that spot. They're good, but it just depends on where your phone hit the last tower to get us close. Our fires, we do really well. We're within 32 seconds of what our goal is. We'll continue to strive to improve. I have the honor of serving as the chairman on the Commission on Fire Accreditation International, and every year I get to sit in 2 sets of hearings. And in that time frame, we have 35 to 45 different fire departments from around the world that come in front of us. And I look at all of these numbers for those 70 or 80 fire departments, and I'll put our numbers up against anybody. They are good. We are meeting the standard. About the only ones that we can't beat are the military, because they have shorter responses and they get the alarm and they just go. They don't worry about all the triaging and getting the calls right and those kind of things. The other one where we're working to improve and continue to get better, our goal is to have, for a fire, is to get all of our units on scene that we need, and we determine that we need about 17 people. If we had a regular, and that's not a real good term, but I can't think of anything else to say, but a regular house fire. So if it's just a single family home that's on fire, we want to have 17 firefighters there. That's what we've done, task analysis for all the things that need to happen at a fire. We need 17 people to complete all of those jobs that have to be done. And for us to get everybody there, we want everybody there on scene doing those different tasks within 10 minutes and 20 seconds. We're at 11:40. We've got room for improvement, but again, there's a lot of factors that get into that. Is where are the trucks at when the call comes in? As you saw earlier, we have 14,000 plus runs. We're busy. The trucks may be out of position just because they're on other responses when these come in. So alarm handling, this is the dispatch time. Our goal again is 1 minute. For all calls, we're looking at about 2 minutes and 38 seconds. And that's at the 90th percentile. That's not the average. So we look at that on a statistically relevant basis of saying 90% of the time, this is when we get everything taken care of. They do much better for fires because there's not as much information to gather. It's the EMS calls that pull that up, and again, there's a lot more EMS calls. Our turnout times, our folks are doing a good job when they get notified that if they're in the station, getting out to the trucks, that number is probably lower than the minute and 14 seconds. But we're out busy doing things. Our folks during the daytime are out in a building doing an inspection of the business or whatever. It takes a while to get through that business, get back out, get to the truck, get their stuff, and get out the door. Fire calls were right there. We're three seconds over what our goal is. So our folks are doing a really good job of getting out there. We stress this, and we kind of try to make it a little bit of a competition for the guys on the different shifts in the same stations to make sure that their numbers are better than everybody else's. Firefighters are naturally competitive by nature, so we use that where we can. But you can see our travel time. You know, we try to strategically locate fire stations within the zones so that we can get to places within that 4 minutes, like it shows their 4-minute goal. All throughout the city, 5 minutes and 48 seconds. And when we take the average of our planning zones 1 through 3, we're at 5 minutes and 33 seconds. So that's where we currently have fire stations. But when we start adding the responses into planning zone 8, planning zone 9, and planning zone 10, those are obviously a lot further to go. Fire trucks only go so fast. We don't have trucks that go 100 miles an hour. They're governed by statute and standard to 67 miles an hour. But we don't drive that fast on the streets anyway. Otherwise, we'd have some problems. We'd go as quickly and as safely as possible. Wrong way. And so some of the major things that we saw over this last year, we celebrated the retirement of 10 individuals. That's a lot of people. We were used to only like 1 or 2 a year. Some had decided to go a little bit early, some of those retirements, because of health reasons, back issues, neck issues, those kind of things. Age was catching up with them and not able to do the job. One of them was even able to find another position within the city and continue his working career with the city. We did 3 joint training academies with West Fargo Fire Department. That's been a great partnership for both of our communities, and we hope to continue to see that happen. We welcomed 14 new firefighters, and you're going to say, wait a minute, you retired 10 and you hired 14. Well, we had a couple from the previous year that were carried over, and then we had 2 additional people that were given to the fire department to start 2022. So. And then we had a few other folks that retired in there as well that left early. They didn't really retire, they left and went to other employment. And that's one of the things that we are starting to see is folks that are newer in their careers, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, taking opportunities to go into the private sector and go to work. That's something that we hadn't really seen in previous years, but there are other opportunities and people are taking that opportunity. We had 3 promotions to captain, so that was good. It's good to see that movement through our organization and people stepping up in leadership. We've continued to certify new members on our hazardous materials team. Just to get folks onto that team is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 hours just to get them proficient in what they need to do. Technical rescue is the same thing. They have to be proficient in 4 different areas, from rope rescue to confined space to trench to structural collapse. So whenever something happens, we'll have people ready there. And then our water rescue team as well has gone through a lot of training to make sure we can take care of the issues on the river. This is probably the most used of all of our specialty teams is the water rescue. It seems like our river just brings people out and people want to be there and in there, and then they get themselves in trouble, and our water rescue team is there. We have a really good relationship with Moorhead, so we come at it from both sides of the river and we both get dispatched and go from there. We finalized our plans for Station 8, and we'll talk about that on the next agenda item. And we designed and bid, so we're solicited for the addition of Fire Station 2, and that started last week, and so we're working on that. And then our firefighters do more than just work their shifts within the fire department. Our folks that are part of IFF Local 642, they participate in a lot of goodwill within our city. And I can't commend them enough for the work that they do. They do the MDA Fill the Boot. They're out in the Hornbachers for 3 days soliciting funds for kids to go to summer camp. I was telling the mayor earlier today, I said that was one of the most enjoyable things for me as a firefighter. I almost dreaded taking the day and going, but I was so rewarded by that experience to take kids that are suffering from a neuromuscular disease and take them to camp, be there for the day. They always love Firefighter Day at the camp because they got to do the things that they don't normally do, because we have folks there that can push the wheelchairs around. They play a lot of broom ball. We get them out on pontoons and take them fishing. And you never see, I can just remember the days of kids so excited. I've never seen people so excited to catch a bullhead in my life. Those are some of the best days. They're out with the Salvation Army. They're working with Christmas gift, and they're delivering gifts to the kids in the hospital. That on Christmas Day, they figure out with the hospitals that they're going to have any kids there. They go out to the stores, buy the gifts, and then they go deliver them on Christmas Day. It's just a great opportunity for our folks to be involved, and the families are very appreciative. We hear all the time from them on how much they appreciate that the firefighters were there that day. So just the last few slides here are just some heat maps of, you can see where some of our where most of our calls happen. Obviously, the downtown by Station 1 there is very busy. Close to 4,000 responses there. Station 4 comes into here and helps quite a bit because they're that close. Station 3, we've got the other high rise up here on Broadway. Station 6 is a little slower. That's our industrial area. But usually when they have a lower call count, but when they have something up there, it's usually very, very serious, and serious medical calls. Station 5 is in the West Acres area, and you're going to see that there's more calls for service. They catch a lot of, we have a lot of activity right in the 3 or 4 hotels that are right here along the interstate, along 13th Avenue, and then up here along 9th Avenue Circle. And then there's the cluster of apartments down here that we just have a lot of people that live there, so there's lots of calls for service. Station 2, they kind of go all over the place. They've got a big area, but still at 2,500 responses a year. And Station 7, again, that continues to grow. I remember when I got here in 2011, Station 7 probably had 100 calls a year, and now they're close to 1,700. And then so you see Station 7, Station 8, and Station 8, you're already seeing those blips. You can see that shading is getting a little higher here at about 31st and 52nd. We have the nursing care facility over here on 52nd and University. So, and then Davies High School down in here continue to get more and more calls for service. And with that, that's our report. If you had any questions for me.
Excellent. Any questions, Commissioner Kolpak?
Just a comment. You know, when you look at the number of calls has doubled in the last 5 years, and so with that comes unpredictability and certainly on resources as well. And I've witnessed really a stewardship approach to managing the budget with a close eye on it, so thank you very much for that. And I just really want to commend the women and men of the department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pipcorn?
So I have a question. Do you have a ride-along program?
Absolutely. Yep. We encourage ride-alongs. We would love to have members of the community. We have high school students that are riding with us all the time, whether it's the World of Work or different work training programs that are out there. We work with our community colleges that have firefighters in the different programs, but citizens are more than welcome to call and come and do a ride-along with us. We'd love to have each and every one of you ride along with us.
In fact, Chief, you have an academy for Commissioner Pipcorn coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that as part of this, but our folks have an academy on Saturday just for some folks that they've invited to come and learn and see what it's like, see what it's like to wield the extrication equipment. I know we've got a couple cars set up for that. See what it's like to feel the gear and those kind of things. So,
Can I ask one more about the
Absolutely.
academy? So is that something, do they pay? Do you pay for them? How does that work?
so for our training academy, we hire them
Okay.
and then we train them. So they go through a 16-week academy. So they get 12 weeks of fire training and 4 weeks of EMT. We stepped out here a number of years ago and asked the state if we could have our own EMS training academy because it was cumbersome on us to do the training for EMTs, and that's a job requirement that we say you have to have that within a year, but we would send them to Sanford Ambulance, and that was on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night for 4 months. And it was logistically, it became a problematic, and we petitioned the state Department of Health, Division of EMS, that we would have instructors. So we sent some of our folks, they became state certified instructors. And I'll tell you that to this point, we have a 100% pass rate on all the classes that we've done. So we've got some outstanding instructors.
So just to follow up, so they get paid, they're going through this education, but they're getting paid while they're doing it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
Should we sign you up for the academy then? You learn how to move a 200-pound dummy, so it's kind of interesting.
Can I add one quick comedy? So I did this the last time you did it, and so you go into a room and you have to crawl on the ground to save, and it's a dummy, which they could have used me for that, but so you have a respirator on, and so if you're really bad at it, I had so much ice on the respirator, I could have filled a cooler, and so they were all teasing me that I was breathing so hard that there was so much condensation on the respirator. That's a firefighter joke, is that correct, Chief?
Yep. If we love to give people a hard time when they struggle a little bit, but especially when we're just messing around. So
Very good. Any other comments? Very good, Chief. Nice report. We're going to go to public input opportunity. Item 34, it's Dakota Commerce Center North Edition. It's going to be continued to 5/15/23. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 35, it's a petition and annexation of property in the northwest quarter of Section 15, Township 140 North, Range 49 West. It's continued to 5/15/23 as well. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 36, it is the application by Corbin Medical for property tax exemption for a property located at 445th Street South. It is going to be continued to 5/15/23. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 37, it's the Valley View Estates 4th Edition. Approval recommended by Planning Commission. It is going to be continued till 6/12/23. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 39, Chief, you're back up again anyway, so recommending award for the bids in the construction of Fire Station Number 8.
yes, good evening again, and thanks for allowing me to be here again. This was the project that we didn't ever think was going to happen. We had to delay the bid opening twice, one for an error that we had, and then two more times because of snowstorms. We closed the city, so we had to move it back. So we finally got the project, got the bids opened on April 19th, and we had 9 bidders for the general construction. We had three bidders for mechanical and 3 bidders for electrical. And the bids came in, the general, and when we added everything all together, everything came in about $59,000 over what our initial estimate was. So it falls within our contingency. We have the general contractor that had the low bid is Ledgestone Incorporated. The mechanical contractor is Manning Mechanical, and the electrical contractor is Grotberg Electrical. So what I'm asking for is, I've got a couple pictures here for you to see what the architects think that it can look like, what they bid out, and what it should be when it's done. We've built this with the future in mind, that it doesn't have it today, but we've got it designed in a way that we can add on where this station is situated in the future, if there's future fire chiefs, because I don't think I'll be here that long, as the city continues to grow down that far, that they may want to have additional companies there to make sure that they can hit the responses that they need to and have the right people in the right places that it'll be easy to add on to. So what I'm asking for is permission to work with the city attorney's office to develop the contracts and get that bid out and get those back to you so that we can begin construction, hopefully have some groundbreaking here in the very near future.
Have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Can I
Commissioner
just
Preston.
ask, remind me where this is again?
This is on 33rd Street South and 66th Avenue South. So
Okay.
it's just south of the new bridge on 64th Avenue.
Although you may have seen pictures of other locations, because we did have land in a different place
Yeah, we were
before,
looking-
so that's why it's confusing, yes.
Yeah, this is probably the 4th location that we've finally landed on.
The hectares had something to do with it, Chief?
We were working through that whole process with that development there and in the Selkirk addition. And we traded some land around and moved the station, so we're in a really good spot. We think will serve the community well for a number of years.
Very good. Roll call vote, please.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 40, recommendation to approve plans for Northern Pacific Avenue parking garage. Jim Gilmore to explain.
Thank you. Commissioner Pepcorn at one of the previous meetings was asking me how long this was a parking lot, and a colleague of mine found this photo from the form in 1962 when the building was demolished to turn it into a parking lot. And kind of funny, the cut line under the picture is it's making way for progress. So I'm not sure that was progress, but hopefully what we're moving towards will be considered progress. The where we are right now is where we're going to approve the plans before we go out and get the bids. And so as part of our contract with the Kilbourne Group organization, the city was going to approve the plans by today to make sure the design kind of fit with what we were hoping for. And I'm not a structural engineer, and so we've had Walker Consultants review these plans to make sure they're in conformance. If you approve these plans, then we'll go out and get bids. Those bids will be due, I believe, the first part of June. The next items that you'll see at future meetings will be approval of the financial incentives that were allowed within that public-private partnership agreement. That'll be on your agenda on May 30th. There are recommendations for approval on those from both the Renaissance Zone Authority and the Economic Development Incentives Committee. But so the kind of go over these plans first. What we're approving is the city parking garage. This will be what the city will own and operate. There'll be some common stairwells here. The entrance, maybe let's. The entrance will be along NP. It'll be similar to the last couple parking ramps we've built, where there'll be 3 lanes. So in the morning, there's 2 ways in. In the evening, there'll be 2 ways out. This will be a little different in that there'll be another kind of exit on the south side, which will also be used as an exit should there be a parade or something happening on NP. It'll provide another way in and out. There's some components of the building. I know that the fire chief will be happy to hear we're going to have a sprinkler system in this building. That's part of the new code. Plus, it's more of an enclosed space. There'd be a bicycle storage room in here so that residents of the apartment building will have access to store their bicycle in a more secured location. There is a plan for electric charging stations. Those won't be going in right away, but the infrastructure to bring in electricity will be available. In addition to the building being sprinkled, pretty much everything is fireproof. It's all concrete, masonry, and kind of coatings, so that should there be a car fire, it won't damage the building. There'd be 461 parking spaces. That's within the range that we had required. I mentioned those entrances. The primary entrance for people exiting the building will be the elevator and stair tower here. There'll be 2 elevators and a stair tower. From this stair tower, people will also be able to access the apartment building. These are some exterior images. This is along NP Avenue. You'll have apartments that'll face NP. Our entrance for the city parking garage will be in this location. There will be retail here. The community theater entrance is along here, and then the pedestrian entrance to the upper floor apartment building is here. The exterior where it'll obviously look like a parking garage versus a residential building. This faces the backs of those buildings on Broadway, and so it really won't be that visible to the public. This faces the railroad tracks, so people will see that as they drive on Main Avenue, but there'll be some finishes on the building. It won't be just that, plain gray concrete. It'll be similar to what you see at Mercantile or the Block 9 garage. The 7-story ramp. If we can go to the other image, probably get some. Let's see. We can get to that Commission NP Avenue one. My mouse isn't cooperating. If this is from Kilborn Group, so you can kind of see the exterior of the building, again along NP with the apartment building entrance here, theater, Fargo Theater here, that FMCT. Again, this is the same image of the general layout. The community theater, probably not what we're approving tonight, but just so you can see their entrance will be along NP at the theater, 31,000 square feet here, as well as their offices and classrooms will be at that location. This is where it says amenity, that's the apartment building space for access to upper floors. And then you can kind of see the other apartments that'll face NP and around that. This is the level 2 plan, and there'll be a 6-story, so this will be levels 3 through 6. Again, I included the recommendation from Walker Consultants that this parking ramp is, I think, well designed and structurally sound, and so I'm asking for your approval tonight. And at that point, Kilborn will go out and get the bids. Some of the remaining contingencies include certainly that private financing being available, but the overall cost being below $20 million for the city and our ability to sell $16 million in bonds at below 7% interest. So those we'll kind of know in June if those contingencies are going to be in place, and hopefully can move the project forward yet this year. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Gilmore, Commissioner Preston.
So, Jim, at the most recent MetroCog meeting, there's a study that's going to be coming forward on EV adaptation, basically, in the city. And one of the questions was about parking ramps and whether we're building them to the standard where they're going to be able to support electric vehicles being heavier. Has that been incorporated?
Let me confirm that with Walker Consultants, but and get back to you on that. I don't want to answer that. I believe that it was because I know it's coming, but let me confirm that and get the information back to you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and
Strand
seconded.
seconds.
Oh, John.
Commissioner Strand.
No, I said second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you had a question. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Hi. We will go to item 9, which was receive and file current schedule of proposals for the American Rescue Plan Act funds and accept the final reconciliation of the 2022 revenues and expenditures. Mike Redlinger to explain, Commissioner Preston to brought it up. Do you have a question you want to ask him, or?
Michael, you want to introduce it and then?
Sure, I would be happy to, Commissioners. Good evening. We're happy to just provide a recap from the Finance Committee's recent discussions on this item. The Finance Committee previously, last month, had discussed the status of closing out the 2022 revenues and expenditures. There are obviously some things that change from year to year, budget to budget. We had some unrealized revenue as well as some rolled expenditures from 21 into 22. And then I noted in the report of action that covers the Finance Committee's recommendation that happened last week that we also had the sale of some property, which was the Island Park ramp, occurring in 2021 rather than 2022. So that created a bit of a tail that had to be addressed in the 22 budget. So working with the finance team, what we put together was a plan to make sure that we were closing out 2022 appropriately, keeping really ARP as protected as possible. These are the ARP funds that the City Commission just over a year ago approved an allocation plan. That was actually on April 18th of 2022. And there was a real, I think, direction from the Finance Committee as we talked in March and April about trying to stay the course with ARP, really managing some of these unintended revenue reductions as well as cost expenditures, utilizing our fund balance. I would just note, too, that our fund balance policy remains consistent with City Commission directive. We continue to exceed that 25% of fund balance, which is what we strive towards in that policy. We continue to do that. So I'll just make one note about 2024. We're beginning to start that process with the budget, and so we're going to be talking about revenue projections and just want to make sure that we're as conservative as possible on revenue projections so that we don't have any kind of hiccups along the way, and then we make sure that everything is documented well so that we can try to recover some of that fund balance. I was telling the Finance Committee last week, that's a number that you will see over time fluctuates, and you'll see that in your packet, but it's a number, too, that we'd like to see a little bit higher than what it is. So we'll continue to work on that, but we do exceed the city policy at present. So I'll leave it at that, and then certainly happy to provide any additional detail on 2023 and how we do in 2023 as we move throughout the rest of the year. Just met with the Health Department, for example, today, talking about their budget, and we'll continue those regular check-in visits on those areas that have had some movement already in 23 on their revenues and expenditures. So I'll leave it at that. Happy to answer any questions the commission would have. Thank you.
Commissioner Preston.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Michael. First of all, I just want to say that this item should never have been on the consent agenda. We are dealing with a fairly major budget issue, and so granted, it gets caught and moved down, but I think just for the sake of transparency, from here on out, we should have these items on the general or on the regular agenda. The question I have is, on the list of the ARP fund allocation, there's about 6 million allocated to general fund revenue loss, and then plus an additional 2 million to the building capital and another million to the parking fund. Can you tell me, specifically with the general fund revenue loss, where were those losses?
Yes, so the ARP program, just let me step back and speak generally, then I'll talk specifically. Generally, the ARP program had a lot of flexibility in later rulemaking that allowed us to use the program to utilize it for revenues that didn't materialize. This was particularly in response to COVID and the pandemic, as well as any kind of cost overruns that we had. So if we had overtime, for example, in public safety, that'd be an example of where we've utilized CARES in the past, as well as this revenue loss. So we're able to claim revenue loss as a qualifying expense, if you will, to utilize ARP. And so there's another level of detail that's not in the packet that I'd be happy to provide the commission, but that would be explained by a variety of factors and issues. But I will provide that, and I can pull that in greater detail for you. But then I would also note, and I neglected to mention this earlier, we mentioned this at the Finance Committee meeting, but what has been allocated already in ARP and approved by the commission is a bit in flux. So what you see in front of you this evening is what's called a 1231 report. It was the December 31 report from the end of last year. That already has been moving as well. And so we were talking with the planning department. There are already some expenditures in the areas of like the Beyond Shelter project, Churches United, community engagement. There are already draws on those funds that have occurred. So what you see for a $12 million balance on the 1231 report is already changing. And we're going to provide the Finance Committee, and I'm certainly committed to giving it to the City Commission as well, a report on where we're at on the $12 million that's available. And so you can see how much liquidity there is. I thought we had a really good conversation at Finance about that, but happy to provide any greater details, behind this information with our staff and the finance team as we move forward with that.
Can I continue? So I would certainly appreciate you distributing the more detailed information on the revenue loss that we actually experienced. Partially just because I'm concerned that we have a structural budget issue going on here. And if we have ongoing revenue loss issues or higher expenditure issues, it would be really helpful to know that up front. I don't have any trouble fixing or reconciling 2022's budget deficit here with using reserve funds. But 2023, we better not be getting into the same place, because then obviously our reserve fund is going to really drop. Can you just explain to me, just on the whole concept of maintaining 25% of the total, that's the total general operating budget, I'm assuming, in a reserve fund. The non-spendable and the restricted, is that counted in the reserve fund?
So what I want to do is pull the specific language for you in that policy, just so we can be precise on that. And I don't have that in front of me this evening, but no, we meet the 25% on unassigned fund balance today, because you're correct. There are some elements of the general fund balance that are restricted and are obligated already. So can I pull that for you?
That would be
and
good.
provide that?
I'd
be happy to do
appreciate
that.
that.
You're welcome.
So just the final comment, it would be really helpful to be getting updated end-of-year projections on a quarterly basis, and you and I have talked about that a little bit, so that we have a really good sense of where we are in 2023. And if we have to start making some changes before the end of the year, that we know that early on. So I don't know if you can bring for the first part of the year in the next couple of meetings, that would be.
Actually, the finance department does have monthly reports of that, which we used to get in our packets all the time. It would be given to us monthly that have been dropped off, so we would bring those back into it so the commission could be more aware of that. Let me finish. And then on the 25%, I believe that was a furnace policy that started as 25%, is that they thought it would be a good policy to have at least 25% reserve funding, as far as I've known all the time I've been on the commission. So that was a policy the commission has maintained over the years. And if you look at the ARP funding, we had revenue loss, but we had to put that in the general fund, which then helped our reserve fund to have the ability then to utilize that reserve fund to make our balanced budget. So it was all very deliberate, and Kent looked through all our revenue loss throughout COVID time and what happened to the community. And it was just very nice to have the ARP money that helped us resolve that.
If I could just
Go ahead,
clarify.
Commissioner Preston.
What I'm asking for is not the monthly budget to actual reports that we have seen. It's the projected year end, so that we have a sense of what the full picture might look like. We had some big adjustments in the budget from last year. There was a $4 million or a $5.6 million budget adjustment sometime during the year. I don't know when that happened. And we still ended up, even having a greater deficit than that. So having ongoing kind of reports on the projected year-end revenue and expenses, that's what I'm asking for.
Well, thank you, commissioners. We'd be happy to provide that. Really, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure we're providing the commission with the information that you feel is valuable, and we're happy to do that. I'll work with our finance team on perhaps a new look quarterly report and format, and we can certainly add to that by all means. If you have some feedback after we produce that, we definitely want to make sure it fits the bill there. So, thank you.
Next item, as long as there, Mike, we do legislative update, please.
Yes,
There's a recommended action here.
Excuse me?
We need to do a motion?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
I'll make the motion to receive and file the current schedule of proposed uses and to accept the final reconciliation, and also to add to it that we receive quarterly updates on projected year-end balance for 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston,
Aye.
Colpack,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye.
Okay, I will move forward with the legislative update. Thank you, commissioners. We did reach the end of the session over the weekend, and I just want to give you just a brief update on one bill, and then I also want to talk about a report out at the conclusion. So when the legislature gavelled out, they had consumed 75 of their legislative working days. So they have 5 days that remain if they would like to get back into session next year and deal with any special matters. So they were able to leave a few days on their calendars for next year if they need it. I want to highlight one bill, and that's the State Water Commission budget. This is Senate Bill 2020. Senate Bill 2020 is what we call a full session bill. It takes the entire length and entirety of the session to be able to reach the finish line on Senate Bill 2020. And I just want to highlight it because there's some really material things in it for the city of Fargo, specifically spelling out the legislative intent for the Red River Valley Water Supply Project. Legislative intent had been established at $953 million for that project, and an additional $180 million of that 953 was allocated by the legislature this session. So that's a very, very big deal. These are funds that come out of the Resources Trust Fund, and that will help us move the water supply project closer to fruition. Wanted to just note the vote outcome on that. That was a unanimous vote in the Senate after a number of back and forth recommendations and actions. A 46-0 vote in the Senate, followed by an 88-4 vote in the House. So just want to thank our partners at LAWA and the Red River Valley Water Supply Project partners for everything that they did to move that forward. Also want to thank our staff that had a lot of role and responsibility for helping us out with testimony, with bill tracking, with just trying to keep the pulse on what was happening at the legislature in Bismarck this year. They did a great job, and I also too want to acknowledge Terry Efforts, our lobbyist, our contract lobbyist. She was fantastic to work with this session. It was our first time working together and really learned a lot from her. It was just excellent to get updates from her as the session unfolded. She and I have been in touch about an end of session report, and this is my question to the commission. She's willing to come to Fargo to brief the city commission in person. She can also provide a written report as it just closes out her work for the city of Fargo this session. So just wanted to leave that question with you, and I'm happy to work with Terry on a final report for the city of Fargo when it's all said and done. So thank you.
Yeah, I think she did an excellent job, and this year was very up and down. Very happy that we got the Red River funding in there because that was at first very much threatened where it would be. This is the highest allocation Red River's gotten in its history, which will be $180 million, which is huge. And you can remember when we worked on the diversion, it took forever for us to get anywhere, but this is really a step forward. Thank you, Michael. Any questions, Michael? Liaison.
I have one, Mr.
Oh, Commissioner Strand, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just curious if I could get an update on the zoning issue relative to gun sales in our neighborhoods.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Strand. That bill also was a bill that was amended. There were different versions of that bill. The final version of that bill as adopted removed the ability for zoning to regulate on firearms only, but it did preserve local zoning control in several elements. What we're going to do is talk with the city attorney's office about what changes, if any, would be needed to be made to city ordinances just to reflect and come into conformity with just provided. So the League of Cities, our lobbyist, our attorney's office, planning, that was really a group effort that involved several entities. And so there was a final resolution on that. That was an issue that came up earlier in the session. It went quiet for a long time. And as I recall, it then picked up some movement again in late March. But we will talk about next steps and what that looks like from our zoning code perspective here as the session winds down and concludes. Thank you.
And I'll continue and wrap up. I would recommend we consider going into an executive session to discuss our legal options. We had taken this to district court after the last legislative session and prevailed. and I'm not sure where the commissioners are, but I think it might call for an executive session for us to discuss our legal options to respond to that.
Yes, we will take that into account, John. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Preston, I'm sorry.
I would certainly agree with that, going into executive session to talk about this one. We also need to do that with the library
Yeah.
one.
If I could, just very briefly on the library matter, Mayor and Commissioner. So House Bill 1205 is the bill that Commissioner Preston just referenced. And then the Senate Bill 2360, that was the bill that was voted down. That one did not progress, and then it was approved, then you had the veto, and then you had a veto that was sustained here last week. So that was one that ended up not getting the votes in the House to override the governor's veto. So we still do have the matter of House Bill 1205, and if the commission would like to take both of those matters into an executive session, we could certainly talk about that and about what that looks like. I've talked to Library Director Dirks about that as well, and just some other opportunities there as we think about our future on House Bill 1205. And so, thank you.
Is that all, Commissioner Strand?
It is all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Liaison Commissioner assignment updates. I assume Commissioner Strand, it's be hard for you to do it from there. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
I'll hold for today. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Kolpak.
Yep, I have an update on water, cleanup week, and 2 slides on fire. So congratulations to the water treatment plant. Recently received a certificate of achievement for compliance with all of the national drinking water standards, which is set by the Safe Drinking Water Act through the EPA. And the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality regulates and enforces the standards on behalf of the EPA. And it's through really consistent investments and really strategy and water infrastructure and multi-department teamwork that we are well positioned for continued compliance of all current and future EPA drinking water regulations. And it's cleanup week. So the Solid Waste Department is hosting the annual spring cleanup event this week and next. Residents can place unwanted debris for disposal on the boulevard in front of their properties to be disposed of by the city, and the debris will be collected on the resident scheduled recycling collection day from 7 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. And there's a citywide site, cleanupweek.com, which really answers questions for the entire metro area. So check that out. And as the chief earlier talked about, Fire Station Number 2 addition project began last week. Excavation is underway. The crews are removing concrete and are rerouting the plumbing. Removal of siding and the pouring of foundation walls and concrete floors is expected to take place this week and to be completed by July 18th. And this should give that fire station on 25th more movability, certainly will help with the workout facilities there, as well as additional room. And then also, as the chief said, we're actively seeking applicants to join the department's firefighters, and the process ends May 21st, after which time the fire department will evaluate qualified applicants. And in addition, the fire department is hosting 2 recruitment and orientation sessions to provide a look into the career as a firefighter, answer questions, and explain the hiring process. Those meetings will be held at Fire Station Number 4 at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May 3rd, and Tuesday, May 16th. And you can always get more information at fargofire.com. That concludes my report.
Thank you. On my portfolio, we have settled with our John's Auto Shop in North Fargo, and he will be able to keep his shop open until August, and has followed some rules he has to do that, but we came to a satisfying or amicable type of settlement with him. Mr. Preston.
Yeah, I think they're going to pull up a couple slides here too. Yeah, if you back up, there we go. So the Downtown in Focus plan, and Commissioner Strand and I were able to meet with the CZB, or not CZB, I get these two mixed up, Interface Consultants by video this past week or two. And they're moving forward with trying to identify or help us go through the process of identifying priorities in that plan and what hasn't been accomplished yet. So that's happening this week, actually. There's lots of meetings scheduled with different stakeholders, and I know both Commissioner Strand and I have been involved, and maybe some of you as well. So that kind of covers that. The growth plan is moving forward, and if you go to the next slide, please. These consultants will be in town on May 9th and 10th, and then also on 16th and 17th. Planning department's been busy trying to set everything up. May 9th and 10th will be actually on the economic and fiscal side, and then the capital facility side on May 16th and 17th. So looking forward to actually starting to see and hear some of their conclusions probably after that at a debriefing, hopefully. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Commissioner Pepcorn?
Update.
Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
We're adjourned. Thank you.